Four Midwest Guys presents The Night's Watch, a Game of Thrones podcast.
Night gathers, and now my watch begins. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the shield that guards the realm of men.
We watch, we listen, and we remember. The past is already written, the ink is dry.
I thought he was the man to lead us through the long night. But I was wrong.
I'll show them what Lannisters are. What we do to our enemies.
How do you know this?
That's what I do. I drink, and I know things.
I believe men of talent have a part to play in the war to come. I will never set a ground for it.
You could help another climb those steps and take that seat.
I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel.
They have no idea what's going to happen.
The real war is between the living and the dead. And make no mistake, the dead are coming.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Four Midwest Guys Presents The Night's Watch, a Game of Thrones podcast. Today we'll be reviewing Episode 3, The Queen's Justice, and here to help me do that is my brother Aaron.
Yeah, how's it going, man?
How's it going, dude?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Good. So things finally, would you say the pendulum has started to swing the other way, perhaps ever so slightly?
What, in terms of
the
power
military
dynamics?
Power, yeah, after watching this one?
It has its moments, yeah. It's hard to say where it's going to go further on, though. It does definitely seem like they kind of pulled one over on Daenerys' army, but at the same time, you have 3 dragons on your side and could change really quickly.
It could.
But we saw that a little bit in the last episode, too, towards the end with Euron Greyjoy, like, capturing the one ships.
Yeah, he set them on fire.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in just a few minutes, but let's start at the beginning of the episode. Jon arrives at Dragonstone, and this was the very first scene, and all you see is a boat and the beach, and I actually thought that it was going to be Theon.
Oh, like him coming back and reporting everything.
Yeah, just kind of reporting back.
Yeah.
But no, it surprised me, and it's sure enough, it's Jon. So, wow, does he move fast?
Yeah, well, I guess apparently, like, they really did just kind of go around the main land.
He's got
it only seemed like it took him a day or two. Yeah. I mean, it could have been longer, but that's the time frame it kind of
makes it feel like it. I wish they would have, had him say, well, I'm sure your trip was long. They kept saying that.
Yeah.
But I would like to have heard him say how long it was.
Yeah, like to have a sense of time for it.
Yeah, something. But I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a map person,
Well, I mean, Westeros doesn't seem like a completely giant landmass, but it is definitely, it takes a while to walk through it anyway.
Well, yeah, especially with the big climate difference going on right now between the north and the south. The south isn't quite in winter yet, and the north is definitely in winter. And,
yeah. But I mean, it could be, like how you look at Ukraine, and there's like some ports that are actually pretty accessible and in comparison to the rest of Russia.
I guess, it's kind of like the United States. Florida hardly ever gets snow, and North Dakota gets nothing but snow, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's really not that far when you think about it. But, yeah. So, it's Jon shows up, and who's there to greet him but other than good old Tyrion?
Which kind of makes sense. Not only is he the hand of the queen, he's also sent the letter and is actually familiar with Jon, so
and he knows him, and I love how they say, well, the last time I saw you was on the wall, and Jon gets him, well, the last time I saw you were pissing off the wall.
Yeah. It's a fun little throwback.
Yeah, a little bit of a
and also
friendly
it's still
banter.
In his character. It's still something you could see Tyrion doing.
Oh, absolutely. And you definitely could see, it's kind of nice to see Jon use his sense of humor. It's been a while. He's pretty stoic most of the time.
Yeah, well, he's not really in a situation where he can be completely lighthearted too often.
Right, exactly.
It's not been one of those sort of shows.
Yeah. So other than Tyrion, though, the rest of the crew that greets him isn't real. I won't say they're friendly, but they're not overly friendly. It's very, what's the word I would use? They have to surrender their weapons to him, and right off the bat, and then it's I don't know, it seems very business-like. Because even Sir Davos is trying to make small talk.
Yeah, Melisandre was just kind of like, okay, we don't need to talk about Homeland thing.
Where I came
but
from.
I mean, in her defense, that's probably a complicated sort of thing with her anyway. So
True.
But yeah, Davos did not get the best reception he was looking for, I guess.
Right, exactly. He's like, this place has changed.
Yeah. Which you would expect. I mean,
shut
it's
down
been
pretty
abandoned
quickly.
for years.
Well, he gets shot down pretty quick,
Yeah, I don't even know if that was
nice.
a flirty thing as much as just making conversation. Like, he's been on a boat for a couple days. He might just be bored.
Either way, I thought it was kind of funny.
Oh yeah, it's an amusing setup, and it really does set the tone for how Daenerys is viewing them coming, and like how she expects them to react and deal with the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I got from the scene, that a few things was how Tyrion tells him, well, if I was your, Jon's like, I don't know why I'm here. And Tyrion's kind of like, well, if I was your hand, I'd probably would have told you not to come either.
Yeah, he mentions that a few times. Like, throughout the episodes, like, yeah, it's a poor choice in a lot of ways. I can see why they advised you not to do it.
And he kind of reminds him, Starks don't fare so well traveling south.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
It's not a red flag statement at all.
No, not even a little bit. And then, of course, the other big part of this scene is Jon finally gets to see all three dragons.
Yeah.
Which he just kind of freaks out about.
Which is kind of funny because this is also a character that's actually seen like the White Walkers and goes on about like how people don't believe him and like he understands they view him as like a bit of a madman, but at the same time it's still like, oh shit, those things are gigantic.
And it is kind of cool too because not only does he get buzzed by one, kind of
pretty close, yeah.
And then you see all three up on the top of the castle. It is kind of pretty cool looking.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
But moving on to the next scene is this is Varys and Melisandre on the cliff there. It's pretty much a kind of a back and forth, I guess. Varys is pretty much right off the bat just kind of taunting her. You mean you don't want to see Jon? Why don't you want to see Jon? And blah, blah, blah.
Did you not leave on the best of terms?
Yeah, he's just picking on her constantly.
Yeah, he does not like magicians or the red priestess sort of class thing.
Somebody cut off my balls and junk, I guess, throw them into a fire. I wouldn't be too happy either.
Yeah. You'd be a little hesitant about getting along with him.
I can see where he's holding a grudge, just maybe ever so slightly.
Yeah.
But she goes on and says, well, I've done my part. I have brought fire and ice together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting to hear a person inside the world of Game of Thrones refer to them as fire and ice, because we all know Game of Thrones' first book is the Song of Fire and Ice.
Yeah.
So kind of an interesting.
Yeah, I think just from a writing standpoint, it's like it's one of those things where like some writers really like throwing in the name of the title into the storyline somewhere for shits and giggles.
It's kind of an Easter. It's not really an Easter egg because you don't have to look for it, but it's a nice little nugget, I guess. You know, just for the book fans, maybe.
Yeah.
And,
like, don't get me wrong, I think it's really well done here, but in lots of other cases, it can be really poorly done.
Yeah.
Like, it just comes across as super cheesy in other contexts.
Like, if you go out of your way to do it. But in this case, it makes sense.
Like, there's a couple action movies that are pretty bad about it.
Yeah, that's true. For her, though, it kind of fits because she's been very cryptic. And,
Yeah, pretty much the entire scene and dialogue with Varys gets kind of cryptic, especially towards the end where he's talking about, like, probably shouldn't come back to Westeros. You probably won't be well liked here. And she's like, well, I'll probably only come back to die. And that's true for both of us.
Yeah, she's like, well, I'll be back one more time to die in this land. And just like you, Varys. Or you as well, Varys. It's just like, it's the very few times you see Varys just very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you see him taken aback and like kind of like he doesn't know how to react to that statement.
And that's the end of that scene. But one thing I forgot, I kind of skipped over, is during that scene, she goes, her time, because Varys is like, don't you want to whisper in the king's ear? She's like, my time of whispering in the king's ear is over.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting line that comes back from Varys is, common folk get a taste for power, like us get a taste for power, is like a lion getting a taste for humans. You constantly, you're always going to crave it.
Yeah.
After the fact.
But come back to that is just like, we haven't been common folks in many years. It's not bad.
My question, though, after that line, though, is, and I'd forgotten about this because I think it was season 4 where Varys and Littlefinger are having a conversation, and both are talking about sitting on the Iron Throne from different points of view, obviously, and different ways of going about to do it. So I've kind of forgotten about that, and I wonder if Varys has some other play other than the good of the people, if you know what I mean. Does he have his own aspirations?
Oh, is he like actually attempting to go to the Iron Throne through like a coup? No, probably not.
You don't think so?
No, I think if you look at both Varys and Littlefinger, they both look at themselves more as kingmakers than kings. And I think from their point of view, that's a more powerful position to be in many cases.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you look at Varys and he's, as we go back to the last episode, he's gone through a couple kings. And he's still been in, the top bits of power for the kingdom up until recently.
Yeah, but
and that's true for Littlefinger as well.
Oh yeah, very much so. It's just, I just wonder if, even though he seems to be the good guy, the good servant, the good advisor, the ultimate good advisor in a way, but
I mean,
just makes me
not
wonder.
As creepy as Littlefinger is.
No, he's not. But it kind of caught me off guard. It kind of reminded me. I'm like, maybe you do have your own aspirations.
Well, yeah, he definitely has aspirations, but I think he's actually very honest about them in the last episode when he's talking to Daenerys about, if you don't, treat the people right, then yeah, I probably will be very open about trying to overthrow you.
Fair enough. The other thing I liked about this scene was she actually admits that she made terrible mistakes.
Yeah.
Granted, she needs to burn for those terrible mistakes because she burned that little girl, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a rough episode.
A little fucked up, just a little.
Oh, but Game of Thrones has a lot of fucked up scenes.
I feel like they're trying to make us like her again for whatever reason, and I don't
having a redeeming quality.
Yeah, and I don't want to do it. I so don't want to do it. Even though she's responsible for bringing Jon and Dany together, it just
well, I mean, it's one of those things like history is full of like bad people that do good things and vice versa.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that are, a bit of a mixed bag, and that's kind of just how to view the character, I think.
I guess. Like I said, I really do not want to like her.
It's like them trying to, redeem, Joffrey Baratheon or something like that.
Yeah, there's no redeeming that little asshole. I still don't think he died valiantly enough. That's how I felt about him.
Yeah.
Ramsay, I got my bloodthirst for it.
Yeah.
Perfect ending. That little bastard got off easy.
They could still try to redeem, Euron Greyjoy. I mean, definitely they can't do it with Ramsay Bolton anymore, but...
No, Ramsay was good. That was a good ending to that bastard. But the other guy, that Joffrey kid, he had a couple minutes of pain for... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, you actually have a scene in this episode where...
I know. We'll get to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You want to wait for that one?
I want to wait for that one.
Because that's a damn good fucking scene.
It is. Yes, it is. Okay, so finally we get to the meeting of fire and ice. Right off the bat, it's kind of funny. They walk into the throne room, which is huge, really. Yeah. We've seen it before, but this is kind of the first time we see it from maybe Jon's perspective.
Yeah, well, that and you also have Daenerys actually sitting on the throne, and it kind of provides an interesting contrast to the size of the rest of the throne.
Yeah.
Because you look how small she is on the throne, you're like, oh shit, I was not aware that was an entire fucking wall built into that throne.
It really is. They said it was built to be intimidating, and it definitely is.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, wow. So right off the bat, they start naming off all her titles: the Breaker of Chains, the Mother of Dragons, blah, blah. It just keeps going. And this is Jon Snow.
Oh,
He's King of the North.
I love how Jon even has to kind of look at him like, I think you're supposed to do a thing, guy.
And, of course... It was just a funny scene. It was just like, she's all these things, and he's just King of the North.
Yeah. I feel like I'm really glad they kept Davos around and he didn't get killed off, because he's a fun little humorous character, even though he's kind of a serious character as well.
He's very human,
Yeah, and he just seems like a very common dude.
Down to earth. Yeah, he's your link to yourself, maybe, in this whole world. And then we get into the whole king versus lord thing. I'm just going to say it. I had it at the end of the scene as a note, but she's very stubborn. He is too, but she's very insistent on no, you're a lord of the North, not a king, and I demand that you bend the knee to me.
Yeah, like your family pledged loyalty to me. And there's a lot of kind of back and forth and like viewing argument from different perspectives. And actually, it's a really well-written scene in that regard.
And we also get a little history. I didn't know this, but apparently Ned's dad, John's grandfather, was burned
by the Mad King.
By the Mad King.
They mentioned it a few episodes ago.
I did not catch on to that until this episode, which I was like, oh, yeah. There's another reason for them to hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's also, it plays into that kind of back and forth. Is like, she's like, your family pledged loyalty to mine for generations. Like, your dad killed my grandfather and burnt him alive. I'm pretty sure that negates her contract. And she's like, damn it.
Although I will give her credit, she asked for forgiveness. Because she says, yes, my father was an evil man.
Yeah.
And she does ask for forgiveness, but she still insists that he bends the knee.
Well, it's funny because she asked for forgiveness and his response is more or less, or the reasoning is like, well, you shouldn't be, held to the sins of your parent. But at the same time, like, John comes back with, well, I shouldn't be obliged to the obligation of my ancestors either.
Right, exactly. And it's like, and she's like, well, why are you here? I'm like, I need your help. And you need mine. And then he goes into the whole White Walker thing, and she's just like, what? What?
Yeah, it's a left field sort of thing. Just like, wait, we were talking about overthrowing the queen in the capital, and now I have to deal with ice zombies. Really?
Yeah, it's like, what? Are you crazy?
It's like, she's just looking around. Why didn't no one tell me there was ice zombies? I was not aware this was a thing. No one prepped me for dealing with ice zombies.
I even like how she turns to Tyrion. She's like, and you like this guy?
Yeah. It's something along the lines, and you trust him? Okay.
Okay. Although he does give her a little bit of credit. He goes, well, you are better than Cersei because it's obvious you haven't attacked the King's Landing, even though you could have. And
yeah, like thousands. He actually goes through like the logic to it and like actually sees why he doesn't.
Right. So, yeah, and he's like, the dead are the enemy. And that's the end of his argument pretty much. And she's like, well, I was born to rule the Seven Kingdoms. And he's like, well, you're going to rule over a graveyard.
Then,
It's just, it's a very good scene, and I liked it. It was just like I wanted to smack the both of them, though, because they're being so damn stubborn with each other.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, they're both staying by their principles, and, like, they even ask him, like, well, if you want our help, just bend your knee, it'll be easy. And he's like, no, I have to stand by the people that brought me here, and I have to do what's in their best interest.
Right.
And, like, there's actually, it's not even, like, a pride thing on his part. It really is just his concept of like honor and responsibility that's really holding him to that position.
Right. He's like, we got to kill the dead first. This is priority one. We're squabbling amongst ourselves while these guys are marching towards us.
Oh yeah. He pretty much is like, we're all kids playing a game while the real enemy comes towards us. And then you have her like, first, you don't recognize me by my titles, which are numerous, and now you're comparing me to a child.
That's when she turns to Tyrion, like, you like this guy? You trust this guy?
Yeah. There's a lot of really good lines in the singular scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually really well done.
And I even like how she just keeps it up. She goes, well, just so you know, declaring yourself king in the North makes you an open rebellion to my crown, to my claim to the throne. So it was just interesting. And then
then they're interrupted with news that their fleet has been destroyed more or less.
And I love even the last line between the two, and he's like, am I your prisoner? Not yet.
Yeah. But I mean, there was a very subtle like, well, all right, you guys must be tired from your journey. How about we get you a room?
Yeah, honestly, they needed a break because they were about to go to war.
Yeah, I mean, there's something
there.
The scene's actually really nice because the tension never really drops throughout the scene, even though like you change from like perspective and like the argument changes and shifts. And actually, there is some moderate amount of compromise in it, but the tension to it never goes down.
No, in fact, it's building all the way up until Varys comes in. I have grave news. It's actually everybody needed a breather.
Yeah.
Right then and there. And I was glad he did.
Yeah.
Because I was like, shit, they're going to go at it,
Yeah.
These two.
And the funny thing is, like, it doesn't really help her situation because you just hear her listen to, like, the little dude talking to her and you're just like, does not seem particularly happy about losing her fleet and just her entire plans being fucked over.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not a good day for her, to be honest.
No, it is not. Not even a little bit. All right. So from meeting of Fire of Ice to pulling Theo from the sea. It's pretty quick scene. It's just, I tried to save her. And they're like, nah, you wouldn't be alive if you tried, you dumbass. We know better. And
yeah, pretty much. Like, if you tried, he would have killed you.
Yeah.
We know how he works.
We know how you are. We know what happened. You know, you worthless piece of shit. And they just leave him cold laying on the boat. Which,
it's interesting to see because even though like his sister was kind of large and in charge of the entire fleet, like he himself does not actually have a lot of respect within it.
No, and it's pretty obvious too. And it's just, honestly, he deserved far worse than what he got when they pulled him out. I'm surprised it didn't just, right there.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Like part of me thinks maybe they'll still try to be somewhat redeeming with the character, and
it's the only reason he's left alive is he's got to have some sort of redeeming moment at the end of this thing.
Not necessarily, but like it seems like from a normal story arc, that is where you would go with that.
I kind of feel like he's Gollum, like when they say Gollum still has a role to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's going to do something in the last second of the last moment.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can see.
Like, don't get me wrong, like in one of the previous seasons, you have him like help Sansa escape the castle with the Boltons, so that kind of was a redeeming thing to an extent. You clearly see him trying to make an effort, and then just in that moment of panic, it kind of all just went right back.
Because he's always in, like, even at the beginning of the whole series, he's being raised as a Stark. Right from the get-go.
That's why you see his betrayal as being such a dick move.
Right. So that's why I want to think he's more of a Gollum. They're either going to go one or two ways with him. He either goes the Gollum route and he does one last heroic thing at the end to save everybody, even if it's for his own selfish reasons, or they use him as he's like a snitch or something.
Yeah.
That's the only two things.
Like you just see the character get progressively worse off throughout the seasons.
Yeah. And it just deteriorates from there. I hope that's not the way they go with it, but we'll see.
I mean, that's a bit of It's Always Sunny sort of ending to the character, isn't it?
Yeah, and maybe that's the way I look at life, or try to look at the glass half full. But
no, I mean, essentially that's what they did with what was it? The one priest in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like the character just gets progressively worse off in life as the show goes on.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a Breaking Bad kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe they do go that route with him. That, like I said, they can go one or two ways. He's got that last redeeming quality at the end, or he's just going to spiral out of control. So, and part of me is, even much as I despise him at the moment, part of me is always pulling for the guy because he's been through such bullshit, horseshit.
And at the same time, I mean, like, is it totally a cowardly thing to just jump on the ship and save your own life? Yeah, but that's clearly like pretty much like just a PTSD thing that just kicked in for him. And like, you get tortured and mutilated.
Right.
That's a reasonable thing to happen to a person.
I get it. I just don't want to give him the excuse, I guess. But yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I know we don't use those sort of like terminology like in fantasy settings.
No.
But they're clearly very developed characters, and that's understandable that it would be a thing. Yeah,
and even the creator said that, in the like little after scene of episode 2 that, they wanted to show that, this isn't gone. This isn't something that disappears overnight.
Yeah. And I mean, that's fair, actually.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst. That's how it is in Game of Thrones. All right. Next scene, Euron's victory parade / the gift presented to Cersei. I kind of like the scene. I'm beginning to like Euron, even though he's a complete asshole. And
he's a charismatic asshole.
Yeah, he's more than bombastic, but honest during the whole scene. But yeah, he kind of has a right to be, really. He's captured the sand snakes to give as a gift.
Yeah, and you just see him kind of just strutting through Main Street, just peacocking.
He's like, look at them, cheering for a Greyjoy. Who would have thought? You know, all this. And
and it's funny to see his dynamic play with Jaime, because it clearly is a character that just loves pissing him off.
He does. He really does. And it's going to be funny to watch that develop over time.
Because it's probably going to be a thing. Jamie's going to want to kill him at one point, right?
Oh, he already wants to kill him. It's just a matter of when he's going to get his opportunity at this point.
But it's actually interesting how many times we have like women just being paraded down like King's Landing while people throw shit and shout horror in the background.
Yeah.
Because there's like one part of that where the sand snakes are going down where some dude like yells horror like 3 times. And I'm just like, that was probably improv. That dude was just like, I'm going to make a name for myself.
I'm the guy that yells horror. That's me. But yeah, he was just very bombastic. I even liked how he brought back up Theon. Did you see Theon's face? Oh, yeah. he's just in his moment.
Oh yeah, he clearly likes fucking with people.
Oh yeah,
like as much as he can.
Yep.
And that's coming from a dude who already rips out people's tongues for his crew, and like is already a bit of a dick just in a general sense.
Oh sure, but I mean he has conquered his sister completely. She's in chains, being drugged behind him essentially, and he's still rubbing it in her face the whole time. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Like he's just fucking with his niece the entire time. And
But yeah, you're right though about the horror thing. This is definitely this season's walk of shame so far.
Yeah, it's weird how often we've seen that happen in King's Landing when it's meant to be like the more like main major city and it's meant to be more educated and things like that. But it's just like it's weird just to see that happen as often as it does in the show.
I know. I kind of missed the nun though. I missed the ringing of the bell and the shame.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
shame. It's just funny. I don't know. I enjoyed that a lot.
A lot of those characters kind of got killed, and I don't know if she's around anymore.
I don't think so. I think the mountain took everything from her. Anyway,
like I don't know, like if that was a character they kept alive, like they do with the sand snake lady.
If she's alive, yeah,
she's alive. It's not a pleasant thing.
No, not even a little bit. We'll get to the sand snake lady in a minute. He gets to walk in the throne room on his horse.
Yeah.
Gallivant right in front of everybody clapping for him. And he hands the sand snakes over to her and, justice for your murdered daughter, Marcella.
Yeah.
And she obviously says, well, you're proving a true friend. You have the heart and you'll have your heart's desire when the war is won.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of political demonstration and like parading, and there's a lot of thing that's kind of pretty much just propaganda.
Yeah,
that it's putting on a show for the people, sort of thing.
Well, it was funny because I think Euron was expecting to probably get her right off the bat, and she goes, "Oh yeah, you'll get your heart's desire once the war's won."
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's probably a bit of disappointment with that, but at the same time, he seems like he likes killing people, so. It's not like he's going to be totally against it.
Not totally against it. And then, of course, she kind of goes with Euron leading our fleet, basically calling him an admiral.
Yeah.
And Jamie leading our troops, our Army. General.
Yeah. You essentially have Navy versus Army.
Yeah, we have our Navy and our Army. We'll win the day. Blah, blah, blah. It's our big moment, political moment.
I love the bits where he's actually talking to Jamie. He's like, oh, we need to talk later, brother to brother.
Have some advice. Does she like it gentle or rough?
Yeah. Just like anything he can, just like piss him off as much as possible.
Sure, just to get that outrage look from him, like I'm going to pull out my sword now, but he can't. You know?
Like he knows, like in that public setting, like he can't really say that much.
Right.
And it's already kind of a complicated issue because legitimate the Lannisters do need allies.
Oh, yeah.
And he's made the pitch for that.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely made himself a very valuable ally.
Yeah.
So far for them. I mean, no doubt about it. And we see more of that. We'll get to that. All right. So one of my scenes that I liked, even though Cersei's a mean, cold bitch, I love what I like to call the return to Don Cerseion. It's like The Godfather all over again, man.
Oh, really? That entire dialogue.
I loved the whole thing with the Sept. That was very Godfather-like last year. And then, this was incredibly. Her revenge on the Sand Snakes is very much like The Godfather, all the way down to the kiss of death.
Yeah, though it's more literal in this case, but
more literal, but still.
I mean, there's a very good reason to why it is that way in the scene, though.
Sure, yeah, because she's using they found out what the same poison, I think they called it the long goodbye, that they used on Marcella.
Mm.
And she, just man, wow.
I don't know. Honestly, I was amazed they went with the poison route. I thought they were going to just like, here's the mountain. He's going to chop off her fucking head in front of you.
At first, but I like how she went through all that, though. She's like, well, I thought about maybe having the mountain squash your head like a duck's egg.
It is interesting. It goes through the whole, she can't sleep at night. And that's what she does when she can't sleep, is she just goes through like how she would most want to torture the people that's done her wrong.
And she did a really good job, because not only did she give the Sand Snake's daughter the kiss of death, literally the same poison that they used on Marcella, but she's like, how long is this going to take, Maester? No, I don't know. It depends on the Constitution. Hours, days, weeks. Mm-hmm. She goes, well, make sure that the torches are well lit, because I want her to watch her not only die,
but watch her
decay and rot right in front of your eyes. And we're going to keep you alive. If you try to starve yourself, we're going to force food down your throat just so you can stay alive and watch her whole face cave in over time.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck.
Yeah, and it's talking about like, oh, this clearly could have been your favorite and how pretty she is. And like, you can watch her pretty face just wither away.
A perfect Dorn beauty. Yeah, I mean, just plays it up really well. It's like, wow. Mm. Yeah, it's a classic Cersei. Like I said, Don Cerseian is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then like after you see her leave, you actually see them like try to actually go near each other. What I assume is to actually spread the poison to like her mother.
Yeah.
And it's just like maybe 6-7
inches apart.
Yeah.
They can't touch each other.
Yeah.
All they can do is watch, and they're gagged. They can't talk to each other. They can't comfort each other. All they can do is watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's,
it's
a very thought through way of how to get revenge. And it's, it's, and it's up there in terms of psychological torture.
Oh, it's all psychological. It's physical, obviously, because she's going to die, but it's all.
Well, yeah, but like she's using the daughter that's going to die to torture the mother, essentially.
And you get revenge on her. It's poetic. It's I don't know how much. It's not cool, but it's definitely it's revenge at its most pure form.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very. I'd like to call her the Don.
Yeah.
So, but great stuff there.
Oh yeah, it's a well done scene once again.
But I think the other thing to point out is if anybody wanted to know the state of Cersei's mind up to this point, this is a perfect example of where she's at right now.
Kinda. Like once you go to like the previous episode where she's talking about she doesn't, she'll wants to kill off her enemies and like make sure that she's still like in charge. And now with her dialogue of not sleeping at night and staying awake, just fantasizing about how to best kill people. And it's like, yeah, she probably doesn't sleep at all. No. Like maybe an hour or two a night at this point.
If that, so
like clearly like the grief and like suffering she's gone through just with losing all her kids has kind of warped her in some way. And that's, understandable to a certain extent.
It's understandable to a certain, and I kind of get it, but it's like she takes that whole moment and in that getting revenge, she uses it and she suddenly feels powerful again, and then obviously goes and fucks her brother again. It's that whole, it's this psychopathic mindset that
I mean that was clearly if you look at the scene with her brother following that, it was quite invigorating for her, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't really see her be that aggressive sexually up until this point.
No, she's gotten what she wants. She feels the adrenaline from that.
Yeah, and not only that, but even the next day, she's not particularly hiding it or anything. Like, she's actually open with the servants about it.
The monster is out and is loose.
Essentially at this point, it's just like, fuck it, I'm in charge. Who cares?
Right, exactly. So...
the funny... thing, apparently the actual actress that's the servant with the short hair has actually been in like Cersei's servant through like the entire series.
Oh really? I didn't realize
like the hair style changed a bit, but it is actually
and the uniform too, which was the same as hers, which I thought
it's
was
very emulating of Cersei, right?
Yeah.
But apparently that has been one of her servants that's been I think since 1 or 2. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
A very long-term servant, actually.
That's interesting, and that she's making other people emulate her, closest people emulate her.
I don't know if she's making them, or if that's a stylistic choice of hers admiring Cersei, or how that works out.
Maybe a little bit of both, but still, Yeah. I could see her making him do it, though, in the current state of mind she's in. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's the only time you really see another female servant throughout the episode, and it's just an interesting little bit.
That is an interesting. I didn't realize that. Huh. So next scene is Cersei and the Iron Bank. This is interesting because I guess the bank starts off by saying how sorry they are about her son, but they're incredibly pleased that that she destroyed the radical faith, even though she's still denying it as an accident, a terrible accident. But come on.
Well, I think that's how they worded it.
Right.
So it just wasn't the thing. You didn't have to go into the details of it, sort of thing.
Exactly. But
yeah, like they all seemed, it was a subtext of it, like, yeah, we know, and we're good job.
Nice job. It's good for business. This guy's all about best for business, right?
Yeah.
This whole scene is about best for business.
It's funny because he's talking about, like, you owe us considerable debt, and it's like, oh, so are you going to bet on the lady that destroyed your slave trade?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that how finances are going to work well for you?
Yeah.
How much did you lose on that, by the way?
Because that's her counter, because at first he goes out and goes, well, we're worried about, basically he's saying, we're worried about all this debt you owe us, and yet you're in another costly war. And that's when she's like, well, I wonder what side you're gonna bet.
Yeah,
you're gonna go with the
like,
one that
we don't really bet. We make sound investments. It's intelligent betting.
Right. So who are you gonna invest in, me or the one that destroyed your slave trade? How's that slave trade going?
Yeah. How do you think things are going to go well if she's in charge?
Exactly.
And it even goes back to the Dothraki thing and kind of that whole savage people thing. That's propaganda she's been using.
So who are you going to buy? So are you going to invest in me, a Lannister who always pays her debts, or are you going to a radical?
Yeah.
And how profitable is that? Yeah.
And it's actually interesting because you actually have him talking about, wow, you really are your father's daughter.
And she really is here. This is totally Tywin. Yeah, very much so. And then, of course, her last line, she's like, stay a fortnight, a.k.a. 2 weeks, and you'll get your debt. Just stay.
Yeah.
It'll be paid in full. Of course, we know what that is, but we'll get to that and how she's going to do that. All right, next scene, the duel, what I like to call the duel brooding at Dragonstone. So both Jon and Tyrion on a cliff, both pretty pissed off for different reasons.
Yeah.
So like, I've come here to brood, but you seem to be better at it.
Yeah.
In fact, it's making me uncomfortable.
Again, you have Tyrion just being a very charming dude and just being very amusing character to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tyrion's like, well, I'm brooding because I didn't foresee the Greyjoy attack, and you're brooding because you feel like you're a prisoner. You feel like he's a prisoner here,
And he's not entirely wrong.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you're free. Tyrion's like, well, you're free to the room, the island, and the castle.
And he's like,
come on.
I have a war to prepare. I don't want to hang out on this rock.
And then Tyrion does admit, though, that he does believe him about the White Walkers.
Yeah.
Because Mormont saw it.
Yeah.
And another person saw it. He's like, well, yeah, of course I do.
Yeah. I think he has a really good line about trusting like a honest man's eyes sort of thing.
Yeah. An honest man's eyes. And then he goes, he points out further, he's like, well, the reason why people don't believe you is people's minds aren't made for problems so large.
Yeah.
He's like, it's even, I think he goes on to say something like, it's actually more pleasant to think about my sister.
Yeah.
Than to think about something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what am I supposed to do?
I feel like I feel like the way you paraphrase that made that sound a little bit more perverted than it is in the context of the show.
Yes.
But like he's talking about like how monstrous his sister is. Not necessarily
not in a sexual way, no. But yeah. So it's but he's pointing out to him what he's up against, right? He also points out that, hey, Dany's not so bad. She protects people from monsters. Like my sister.
He's actually kind of putting in a good word, making an argument for her, like actually ruling the kingdom sort of thing.
Yeah. And then at the end, he's like, well, what can I do for you? What can I do?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a really good scene where it was actually kind of talking about not necessarily compromise, but just like, all right, if you don't want to form a complete alliance for us, there might be things that I can still do to help.
Something reasonable. Yeah. What can I do? What do you want?
Yeah.
What's something I can help you with now? And that, of course, moves into the next scene with Tyrion and Dany, which persuades Dany, which I think's kind of funny because he's trying to make himself sound something he said sound like wisdom.
Yeah.
And she even catches on to it, though, and calls him out on it.
And he's like, I only do that with other people.
I would never do that with you. Of
Yeah.
course not. Of course not. But essentially, she convinces him to give him the dragon glass. She's like...
Well, he actually has a pretty good argument for it. It's like, it means nothing for you.
Right.
Give away nothing for something.
For something. At worst, you're giving away something worthless.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So why not? So... And then the other thing I want to point out in this scene that I thought was interesting is she remembers when they first met, Davos talking about him taking a knife in the heart for his people.
Yeah.
She's like, did you catch on to that? Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Terry's like, well, you must allow the North to have flight of fancy. I
Yeah.
mean, they are
very
from
cold.
The North. It's cold and damp and dreary and blah, blah, blah.
Leave them to their hyperbole.
Right. But yet that would be something, though, that would probably push her over the edge because... Okay, so let me get this straight. There's dead people coming. You rose from the dead.
Yeah.
Somebody... Melissa,
How did you come back from the dead?
Yeah.
The Red Priestess brought you back? Wait, is she still here?
Where did she go?
Can we have that as a backup plan?
So, yeah. All right.
Because if you know you have someone that can bring someone back from the dead, as a ruler, that seems like a pretty good person to have hanging around.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, right. You know, just in case. You know,
if you're playing in any game, having a party that has with the ability to cast revive seems like a good plan.
So that leads into the next scene, which I like to call Fire and Ice informal meeting, or maybe Fire and Ice melting, cooling off, whatever. It's just a nice scene. Instead of it being a more formal meeting, this is just Danny and John just kind of
just
one-on-one looking off from the cliff into the distance. And even she goes, well, you know, dragons were said to be gone, but now they're here.
She still seems pretty...
You know, she's trying.
Yeah, but it doesn't really seem like she believes him. She's just like, I'm trying to meet you halfway because you don't seem like a complete asshole in terms of a leader for your kingdom.
You don't seem like a crazy. I think it's what she's trying to say. She's like, you know, they're gone, but maybe we should re-examine what we think. And, you know, no change in the, you know, there's no real change in that whole kingdom stance. That still exists, but
you do have a bit of change in that she actually is not only saying she's going to help allow him to mine for dragonglass, but is actually going to help give him resources to do it.
Right.
So that is actually a bit more of a compromising position than you would have expected.
Right.
Because it's not just like, hey, if you want to bring your people down here and do it, fine. But it's like, fine, we have extra people just hanging around.
Right.
We'll let them help you mine.
I'll give you the resources you need. And the only other thing at the end of the scene is he's just like, so do you believe me about the White Walkers then? And she goes, you better get to work, Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice little throwback to You Know Nothing, Jon Snow, almost. In a
really?
way.
I just assumed that was a nice little just fading away from the question sort of thing.
It was, but it to me, it took me back. It was that whole tone. It was that whole You Know Nothing, Jon Snow. You know, that big line that everybody made a big deal about. So
I don't know. I don't think that's going to be catch on to the same extent.
Probably not. Yeah. But nevertheless. So... All right, next scene, we're up in Winterfell. Sansa takes control of Winterfell, maybe / the north here. Basically, she's just kind of giving out orders. She gives out orders on preparations.
But they all seem like pretty competent orders, and she actually seems like she's doing very well on just kind of the management of it.
Yeah, day to day.
She's making an argument for like building up grain silos because if
they have to come to Winterfell, they don't have enough food.
Yeah, and you actually have adding leather to armors because when the cold comes, you need fucking extra insulation.
Right.
Just a lot of really practical shit, actually.
And she's telling people, she's like, Maester, can you get on the grain? Then she sees that the armor has no leather for winter.
Like, she delegating responsibilities very well.
So she puts the general the veil on that. And he's like, yep. He goes right there. He's like, why is there no leather on this? Blah, blah, blah. So, you know, it's she's doing a halfway decent job, I think, here. And, of course, Littlefinger sees his way in and says,
creates an opportunity.
Sure, he goes, well, you know, command suit seems to suit you very well.
Yeah.
You know, blah, blah, blah. And then he points out how reminds her that Cersei is still dangerous.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you mean the one that killed my brother, my father, and
yeah, it's like, motherfucker, I know she's dangerous.
But thanks for your advice anyway.
The Littlefinger does have this really nice line about like fighting all possible battles in your mind.
In your mind, yeah.
So you like never have an unexpected thing come towards you, and it's a really nice little dialogue.
It's interesting, yeah, because it's insight into how he thinks, because he goes, picture everyone as your friend, picture everyone as your foe. And if you do that, then you'll have no surprises.
Yeah.
Fight those battles out in your mind all the time.
Mm.
And that's really interesting, because that really describes exactly how he works.
Oh, exactly. It is the definition of like his entire process going forward. And it's really fascinating. And that might make it maybe somewhat more reasonable, where you see him kind of switch back and forth, where you don't really know where his allegiance
where he comes from, where he's coming
because
from.
in his mind, it's always a back and forth. It's always weighing the odds and like knowing where you're going to come out on it, and that's it. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just like, oh, okay. To me,
it's a very.
That's
I don't know if I would necessarily call it like Machiavellian, but it's close to it.
It's pretty close, because it's a weird way to live, right? You can never be calm. You can never be at peace if you're constantly looking at, thinking everybody's against you and everybody's for you.
At the same time, like you can make an argument that might be a more calm way of living, in some sense, that you're always prepared for everything that comes your way.
Maybe you're never caught off guard, but at the same time, you can never fully be at rest.
Like you can't be like super relaxed and like drunk and intoxicated and walking through the streets sort of thing.
Yeah, but you can never be at peace though either. I would think that would drive me, if I tried to do that, that would make me personally drive me crazy. That's just
for some people that might be like an anxiety ridden sort of thing, but for other people that actually might be like a almost stoic sort of meditation thing, where that's actually a very calming, prepping for life sort of thing.
I don't know.
You know, hoping for the best but still preparing for the worst.
I guess I don't know. To me, that I don't know. That's the opposite.
Like you never see Littlefinger particularly flustered. Like throughout the entire series.
Not really. He's pretty much always on point.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like, so...
But there's a price to pay for that, I would think.
Like, don't get me wrong, you don't see him being, like, super jolly and joking, but you never see him irritated or agitated. It was just calm and collected.
He's calm, he's collected, but he's always creepy. And I think that, you know...
I honestly didn't find him super creepy until, like, the last season or two.
Really?
Like, in the first couple of seasons, it was a little odd, but I thought he was an interesting character, and it's really... Just his relationship with like Sansa, I think, super creepy.
Even down to his two front teeth. When I look at him, I just see rat. That's exactly what I see. Yeah, I've always have. That's just how I see him.
Oh, okay.
Even in his appearance, to his teeth, to the way just rat. That's exactly what I see.
Okay.
So I don't know. Okay, next scene kind of leads into the next scene. Brandon finally comes home back to Winterfell. Very emotional, very unemotional from Bran's point.
Yeah, you actually see Bran kind of being far more distant with everything.
Yeah, he's very, I don't know if the word, not stoic, but, well, yeah, maybe. He's just...
Like aloof.
Yeah, it's like he's there, but he's not there. He's like...
Which he kind of is. Like, it clearly does seem like he's existing in multiple places at once, sort of thing.
Right, and they have a conversation. She's like, you're the rightful... pure-born son, the only one left of Ned's.
Yeah, you technically should be Lord of Winterfell. He's like, no, I can't do that. I
can't be the Lord of Winterfell. I can't be the Lord of anything, he even says.
Yeah.
Because I'm the three-eyed raven. He's accepted that as his destiny, and that's who he is now.
But it also gets into the weird concept of how that works, because then the conversation is like, well, how did you learn all this from the three-eyed raven? I thought you were the three-eyed raven. It's complicated.
It's complicated. And then he turns kind of creepy, even, because he describes Sansa's rape. He's like, oh, you were so beautiful in your dress, and I'm so sorry for what happened. And it was snowing that day, and it was just like, whoa, dude, like just, whoa, okay, yeah. It was just really, really creepy.
Oh, yeah, and she's clearly freaked out, and just like, oh, he should know that. Okay.
I mean, it's definitely shows his power and that he can do that. It's
interesting,
to her,
though, because, like...
Why pick that of all things?
Yeah. Like, it's a weird thing to bring up, but I guess maybe to prove a point sort of thing, but...
I don't know. I was just like, ugh, dude, why would you do that to your own sister? You know, why would bring up something that horrific? Yeah. I don't know.
But I guess it'd be a memorable thing to bring up if you want to prove your point. But like, it's weird seeing like Sansa go from being so in charge and so just like kind of startled and thrown back from that. Because it seems like if you have someone that's omnipotent on your team, that's a really good like thing to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think she's just coming to terms with it, though. It's going to be, you know, it's her little brother, and
it's a weird thing.
It comes back an oracle, essentially.
Yeah,
you know, so yeah,
it just seems like something you could really utilize.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, he says I need to talk to John. So he knows something, and he needs to talk to John about it. What that is, we don't know yet. But you know,
well, I'd assume it has a lot to do with the White
Walkers. Yeah,
that's really where his story arc's been through.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is too. But still, you know. So next, we're taken back to Old Town and back to Jorah, and this is basically the Archmaester declares Jorah healed. Looks like Sam was successful in his procedure there.
Yep, the cut and ointment procedure worked fine.
Yeah, the cut and ointment. Who knew? Just peel off the bad skin and throw some shit on there, a little Neosporin, and
it's weird that works though if it like affects the nervous system later on, though, right?
Yeah. So you would think at his advanced,
like, is it something where it actually has to get to like cover all the skin before it starts seeking? Or maybe it has
to get
more
to his head to get to his brain, maybe because the other people are completely covered in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, apparently, you pick the scab off and you put some kind of medieval Neosporin on, and there you go. And take the pus out. Nasty.
Well, I mean, that kind of came with the top layer of skin, so.
Yeah, but he was actually, they showed a thing of him digging it out too. It was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And they went to the soup too. Oh God, I still can't eat soup to this day. But yeah, so.
Were you a big soup person before?
Not terribly, but I really do like potato soup, and that really looked like potato soup. But anyway, Jorah, will return to Dany. He owes his life to her and to Sam, he says.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been I mean, if we're talking about someone that's also a little creepy in his obsessiveness, Jorah's also kind of in that category a little bit.
Oh, yeah. He's like, and then the Archmaester's like, I need to see you. And he's like, what do you think will happen with that? Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Someone got sent to the principal's office.
And the Archmaester scolds him, but actually, I think he's more impressed because he goes, other Archmaesters have tried this, that have many healing things on their chains.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I never realized that was kind of like a medal or whatever.
Like it's actually a sign of their years or like their abilities.
All their procedures they've done or something. But anyway, that with many of these healing links on them and they failed.
Yeah.
How did you do it? I read the book, followed the instructions, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a good line. You start seeing it going around as like a meme occasionally.
Yeah.
How are you so good at IT? Oh, I just read the book and follow the instructions.
I plugged it in. Turn it off, turn it back on.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets punished. He has to transcribe all these old scrolls.
And I gotta be honest, I actually don't think that's punishment.
I don't think so either.
Like, that's actually an upgrade from what he was doing. From, like, cleaning toilets and shit.
Not only that.
Also, there's very specific books on that table. Like, they're all very old, very specific, and it doesn't suggest that they're just random.
Precisely. And the fact that they are so old tells me that I think this is the Maester actually showing Sam what he's been looking for all along.
Yeah.
That this is the stuff on the White Walkers.
Yeah, pretty much like, I can't necessarily give you complete access to it because that goes against our rules, but I can give you a job to do.
Give you a job to do, and if it just so happens to be the White Walker stuff, okay. You know. Yeah. That's what I think's going to happen. We'll see.
Yeah. Or at the very least, I think it's definitely it's a teaching moment. It's an upgrade, like actually transitioning him to more of a Maester role he was hoping for.
Precisely. So we'll see. We'll have to see how that theory holds. But I think, I agree with you. I think it's definitely on the White Walkers. So, all right. Next scene is the Siege of Casterly Rock. So it's interesting because Tyrion ends up giving us kind of a play-by-play of what would happen.
Yeah, well,
Or
he's
what
kind of
could
describing
happen.
like how it's going to go down, and they more or less use a montage thing in the background.
Yeah, and at first they're like, yeah, Casterlac was built to be impregnable, and yeah, they will most likely die if they try it the normal way, and they show them dying.
Well, he's also saying,
You know.
yeah, we're going to lose a lot of dudes here.
Yeah.
Like that's going to happen.
We're going to lose a lot of dudes if we try to do it the normal way.
Mm.
Because they show them basically all dying at first, and then he's like, but since my dad made me, Lord of the Sewers.
Yeah, but it's actually funny how he describes it as like,
Yeah.
he thought that was beneath him, so he gave it to someone of less stature.
Yep.
Me.
And somebody pointed it out on Facebook, and I went back and they're right. He does mention this all the way back in season 2.
Yeah.
That he was in charge of the sewers at Casterly Rock, apparently.
Well, yeah, and he also explains why he put in like a passage there as well.
Well, yeah. Well, I kept some whores around, and Dad didn't like that, so why not?
Like, and it kind of fits with the character so well. It's like, yeah, I used to party a lot, and I needed a way in and out of my room.
Really like to drink and fuck, and So
it works with the character. It works for how everything went down, and yeah. The only thing I did find weird is like, I don't see why you wouldn't use dragons to help take Casterly Rock.
yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Because that seems like that's a really good advantage to have in that scenario. And honestly, even if you burn down Casterly Rock, it's a symbol more so than it is a needed fortress.
Right, so it would just show that you're destroyed the heart of
The Lannisters. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it had that same thought actually too when I was watching. I was like, why you have this weapon of mass destruction?
Yeah.
It's
like,
just
don't get me
a
wrong,
castle.
If you don't want
with
to take
troops
down
in
King's
it.
Landing, that's a giant place. That's fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there,
But
and there's
Casterly
innocent
Rock
people.
more or less just seems like a military base.
It's a military base, and it's full of your enemies. Yeah, why not use the weapon of mass destruction there? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I was right. I'm right there with you. I don't understand it either. Although I did think it was the way it all went down and how they showed the twist that, they left the castle for them to take.
Yeah, that was good.
And how Euron came in and burned their ships and stuff. I think it was interesting to have that contrast because you have this Tyrion that has this master plan in his head showing you how they're going to get this great victory, and in return, it shows how
It
wrong
led to a
he
giant
is.
defeat.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it also goes back to Jamie talking about more or less copying movements from like
Rob,
Yeah.
which is in the next scene we're going to talk about. But yeah, with the Queen of Thorns.
So, I mean, it's interesting because you see Jamie kind of learning from mistakes and then adapting that to the next battle.
Right.
So, like, it's one of those things like that might have been successful had Jamie not gone through the previous wars with the North.
It's true. And that's probably where he got the idea, I'm guessing, because they found out they were coming, obviously.
Yeah.
And then that's probably what happened.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because, like, it even goes into, like, well, for us, it's a fun place we grew up but it's nothing really spectacular anymore. It's nothing crucial. And if we burn down the ships, they can't keep the place. We didn't leave enough supplies.
We took the food, so eventually they're going to have to walk across Westeros, and when they do, we'll just kill them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But that whole scene with Casterly Rock, though, it begs that whole scene in the last episode with the Queen of Thorns, and she's like, don't listen to clever men.
Yeah.
I think that was like big. That's the whole thing to take from that whole scene with Casterly Rock.
Well, yeah, it was like, he's clever, but clever men sometimes fail as well.
Right.
You have to trust your own instincts on these things.
And so that's where that whole, I think that was the whole point.
Yeah.
Of that whole scene is to drive that point home. Because I think next episode, Dany is going to be unleashed.
The funny thing is, like, if they actually have a way of killing the dragons and she goes straight towards King's Landing, it's kind of a trap in its own way, too, though.
Yes.
It is kind of both. There's traps both ways.
Right. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the best scene in the whole episode, in my opinion. What I like to call is the Queen of Thorns' last laugh.
Yeah.
The Lannisters have decided to take Highgarden. Instead of being at Casterly Rock, Jamie learns from his mistakes, and attacks Highgarden.
Yeah.
They don't even show the battle. Instead, which is interesting, because they just go through Jamie looking for the Queen, which gives her.
I actually think it's kind of a funny little thing because they go. There's a remark she makes. How well did we do? And he's like, it's about as well to be expected.
About as best to be expected.
And she's like, yeah, well, we never really were the warrior types, essentially. So it does kind of suggest maybe why they didn't show it, because it really does suggest it was just a one-sided slaughter.
And I like how she pointed out, she goes, and now the rain will weep for our halls. And it's even more interesting because in the background for that whole scene, they're playing The Rains of Castamere, which is the same song they played at the Red Wedding.
Yeah, well, The Rains of Castamere is essentially a song about the Lannisters wiping out an entire house.
Right.
So whenever they wipe out an entire house or a large chunk of it,
it's fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then it's just a really great back and forth between her and Jamie.
It's interesting because even in like that defeated state, you don't see her be less proud. You don't see her, particularly upset about it, because pretty much the people she cared about were already gone. So fuck it.
Yeah, even she's making fun of her own people who just got wiped out. She's got the whole, did we fight well? It's about as best we could be. Well, we never were very good at fighting.
Yeah.
Golden, I think she goes, golden roses indeed.
Yeah.
And then he goes on about the whole Robb Stark thing. She goes, there is something to be said about Jamie's like learning your lessons from failures. And she's like, well, you should be very wise then.
Yeah.
She's still.
There's also a few jokes. Well, I guess I'm, done learning from my failures, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. She's making fun of herself. She's making fun of Jamie.
She's kind of approaching the end of a bit of a wit and just humor to it.
Yeah.
It's weirdly the closest thing you have to a good death on this show.
It's her swan song, literally. Yeah. So it's perfect too.
Yeah, and just the character is just staying strong and is to her roots. There's something to be said for Gold Rose in that scenario.
But she does throw out some doubt at Jamie, and maybe even a seed of doubt in Jamie when she concedes that she underestimated Cersei.
Yeah, it's I thought she was a monster. I never expected the monster, how monstrous she was.
Yeah, she's like, my only failure was my lack of imagination and how big of a monster she was.
Oh, and that's such a good fucking, dialogue, isn't it?
It's great. That's some of the best dialogue I've ever...
And it's so true, and it's she's like, you got rid of the Mad King, but what will you do when that's her?
Yeah, with the Mad Queen, essentially. And that's what she's become. And, and she goes on, she goes, well, you must really love her. And she's going to be, she'll be the end of you. And he's like, you're probably right. And
but I mean, that also goes back to Jamie's character. I mean, hell, season 1, episode 1, the things we do for love.
Right, exactly.
So.
Man. So eventually she's like, well, how's it going to end?
Yeah.
How's this work? And Jamie's like, well, I talked Cersei out of, having you flayed and beheaded
and hung on the wall
and hung at the cap, at the sept and blah, blah, blah. And she's finally like, he takes out the little vial of poison, puts it in the wine glass. And she's like, will there be pain? He's like, no, I made sure of that.
Yeah.
So there again, Jamie, even though he's kind of, this is like he's always got that good quality, even though he's this asshole.
Yeah. But he's a mixed bag sort of dude.
Yeah. Yeah. He's always that one side of him. And here it is again, taking.
Yeah. I mean, he does what he has to do for his family and for the side he's on, but he never seems particularly cruel about it.
He's not brutal. No, which is interesting, other than when he pushed Bran out the window. But
but that was just.
But that's
I can't destroy my family, and I can't let people know about this.
Right, I know. But
it's not like he seemed particularly eager to it. He's not like Euron Greyjoy, where he's super excited about it.
Right, it's everything within reason, I guess. Yeah. Maybe, kind of, sort of. I don't know if that's the best thing to say about him with him and his sister, but anyway.
Yeah.
So he takes out the vial. It's like, will it hurt? Nope, no pain whatsoever. She just takes it and downs it as fast as she can.
Then she has that bit like, oh, I'm so glad you know what this is. Really, when we murdered your son, I didn't expect it to be that slow. I never saw the poison work before.
Yeah, I've never seen it work before. So, I'm glad I'm not going to die like your son, gasping for air with bile and foam coming out of my mouth and my face turning purple. And she recounts it detailed at him.
Yeah.
Just so detailed at him. Oh my God. And the look on his face is just priceless.
I mean, you have that look damn it, shouldn't talk Cersei out of flaying you.
Yeah, she's like, what the fuck? And I honestly thought he was going to pull out his sword.
And just like stab her.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah.
I would have. And then I love the last line, and I want Cersei to know it was me.
Yeah.
It's like mic drop.
But
Boom.
that actually has to be kind of an interesting dynamic for him, because he actually had someone confess to something that Cersei was pinning on their younger brother.
Yeah.
Where, like, they assumed, like, it was Tyrion to the end, or at least Cersei did, and, like,
right.
No, now you actually have
proof,
a flat-out deathbed confession.
Will she believe her brother, though? Because all she has is the word of her brother. She doesn't, she wasn't there, obviously.
Well, that, and I mean, at this point, it's a moot point. Tyrion's already sided with Daenerys, so...
Right, true. Still. But anyway, wow. Well done.
Oh yeah, and the actress that plays Tyrell just did.
It really is her swan song, in every step of the imagination. And yeah. Talk about
just the entire scene is. This is a scene where we had Jon Snow and Daenerys, like having a back and forth sort of discussions about bending knee and ancestry. And this, in some way, almost kind of steals the episode.
It does. She steals the whole episode. It's my favorite scene of the season so far. And granted, we're only in episode 3.
But it's been a damn good season so far.
And it's been a very good season so far. And, but you talk about, it's just like the ultimate mic drop. If there could be a mic drop in Game of Thrones, this is it. This is like,
I killed your kid, but I already drank the poison. What you gonna do
now, bitch? Wow.
But at the same time, it's like her entire family went out, but maybe one of the reasons she was okay with that as well. Still killed your kid.
Just so you know. Yeah, it was me. Tell Cersei that too.
I want her to
bitch.
Know. I mean, that is kind of very close to it.
Yeah. Just so you know. But so, but anyway, we have dissected this thing and we are over an hour now. So, let's, just real quick, your, final grade there.
Oh, definitely an A. I mean, there wasn't a weak scene in this episode.
No, definitely not.
This has been a great season, and this just kind of keeps everything rolling along, and has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a reason why we've been talking for an hour and over 5 minutes now so far, is because it is so jam-packed, too. I mean, every scene is critical. Almost every line is critical. It's just been an absolutely epic season, and I'm sorry that it's only 7 episodes, and I'm sorry that we only have 4 episodes left this season, At
the same time, at least they've been damn good episodes, and, there hasn't been, anything I would count as filler this season.
No, other than Bran showing up at the wall, and that was just plot point. But that's really it. I'm really scraping hard to find that.
That's not even filler. That's just hey, he got here. Just as a heads up, the storyline is still progressing.
Yeah. This is definitely an A+ for me as well. So, I would. Damn good episode. Great ending.
Yeah.
To a great episode, and I think next episode it looks like Dany is unleashed. I think she's going to be the dragon. So
take some advice from an old lady.
Yeah, the question is just how far does she take it?
Well, yeah, it's one of the things using power well is the challenging bit. Just unleashing your dragons on King's Landing and just burning it to ruins may not be the best idea.
Yeah.
But if you burn down Euron's fleet and actually allow, to kind of even the playing field and then take out surrounding areas and kind of kill Cersei bit by bit, I think that could be a very successful strategy, especially
if she's smart. Yeah. Because I would almost think about taking out what's left of the fertile grounds that the Tyrells have. Yeah. Because obviously that's where she's now going to get the money from to pay off.
Oh yeah, just burn their food.
Yeah, burn their food. Yeah.
You can regrow it later.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah. And maybe go after Euron's fleet too, obviously. But yeah, I think we even hear her come up to Jon and say, "I'm losing," and she's pissed off, really pissed off. Probably the first time we've seen her unnerved in quite a while.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how far she's going to take her weapons.
The interesting thing about that is you look at this show's history is traditionally when Daenerys gets upset, Motherfuckers go
Motherfuckers go
die.
down. I'm just hoping she doesn't lose some dragons because she goes to Westeros or goes to King's Landing with them.
Yeah.
You know? But
I mean, like, the last time was the giant Dothraki tent, and like just burned the entire thing down.
But she was cool, calm, and collected even then.
Yeah.
She had her plan. This time, she's going to be a wild ass dragon about things. I don't know. We'll see. So, all right. Well, Aaron, thanks for joining us today, man. And
no
help me
problem.
break this down. And real quick, if you want to know where to find 4 Midwest Guys, because I almost forgot to tell you, go to the www.number4midwestguys.com. Again, that's the number4midwestguys.com. Again, one more time, the number4midwestguys.com. All of our podcasts are there. All of our links are there. Everything's there for you to follow us, like us, and subscribe. So please do check out the website. And this has been B. Willie, and we will catch you next time.